Hello dear crypto friends. So today it is again time to look at Bitcoin, and we are starting right away, but this time with the monthly long-term chart. The monthly chart is really interesting because it gives us some very interesting clues about Bitcoin's long-term behavior. And as you can see, I have also loaded a very useful tool, namely the Bollinger Band. And I think the Bollinger Band, especially in the monthly chart, is an extremely underrated and extremely useful tool to learn something about Bitcoin's long-term behavior. So what can we see, friends? We go back to the very beginnings of Bitcoin. There, of course, obviously didn't yet exist a Bollinger Band, because the Bollinger Band needs a bit of input from the previous candles in order to be calculated. So the Bollinger Band started in February 2012, and we can see that for a very long time Bitcoin was always trading above the middle Bollinger Band. So you have an upper Bollinger Band, you have in orange the middle Bollinger Band, and you have the lower Bollinger Band. So the upper and lower Bollinger Bands in blue and the middle Bollinger Band in orange. And for the longest time, from February 2012 until September 2014, for 2.5 years, Bitcoin was trading above the middle Bollinger Band. And then for the first time ever, it broke below the middle Bollinger Band in September 2014 and stayed below the middle Bollinger Band until November 2015. So for more than 1 year, we stayed below the middle Bollinger Band, which was the first time ever it went below the middle Bollinger Band. And then what happens? The Bollinger Band gets narrow if the price action is sideways for a long period of time. The Bollinger Band gets narrow. And if the Bollinger Band, as we see here, gets very narrow, then the likelihood for a breakout increases dramatically. So when the Bollinger Band gets really narrow, the breakout probability increases very, very much. So therefore, we got this breakout, and because of course we know that there was the halving in 2016, and luckily also the dollar index was dumping, that means that we got this brutal rally in 2016 and 2017. And then we see then came a new phase where we, in the bear market of 2018, again went below the middle Bollinger Band, which was nothing new because it did the same before. Then it went again above here, above the middle Bollinger Band, and touched the upper Bollinger Band. As we can see beautifully, the upper Bollinger Band always posed some very strong resistance. It hit exactly the upper monthly Bollinger Band and was deflected by it. It didn't manage to break through. And then it actually went again below the middle Bollinger Band here in March 2020. And then again, as we can see here, for the longest time also, the middle Bollinger Band still provided some very good and respectable support, only with this exception, March 2020. And then of course the last run-up came, and now for the first time ever, not only did we break below the middle Bollinger Band, but for the first time ever, we actually touched the lower Bollinger Band. As you can see, Bitcoin has never yet touched the lower monthly Bollinger Band. And this is the first time ever, but do not despair, because as we saw the last times, the middle Bollinger Band normally provided excellent support, and the lower monthly Bollinger Band should normally provide even more support. So I think the probability that we are going lower from here is not so high. Normally the monthly Bollinger Band should provide excellent support, and I think at least at the minimum I expect some strong reaction here in form of a bounce. Now sure, we could dip again lower a second time, and all the while the Bollinger Band would get narrower, and then we would have a situation akin to the situation, for example, here in April 2016, where the Bollinger Band was really narrow, and again it would be super narrow, and then we have the next halving, as we know, not far away in 2024, March 2024, so the probability for a breakout would be a lot higher to the upside than to the downside. So a scenario like this one could certainly happen. So the Bollinger Band is a really useful tool to see Bitcoin's long-term behavior, right? It is a very useful tool, and it will get really interesting when the Bollinger Band will get narrower again. But we can see that the upper Bollinger Band is really high up. It's now still at 64,000. So in theory, a pump to the upside is not excluded. This happened, as we can see here, also in 2019. This fascinating rally from 2019 went really high directly into the upper Bollinger Band. So in theory, we could go up until the upper Bollinger Band, get rejected again, get lower again, all the while the Bollinger Band is narrowing. And then at some point, bam, we go to the upside, because as we know, having 2024 is coming and delivering us from this suffering. Now, just taking a close look at the volume, friends, the volume would indicate, in my opinion, let me just deactivate the Bollinger Band for a second. The weekly volume didn't look so bad, we said last times, right? The weekly volume candle doesn't look so bad. It indeed is a quite high volume candle, and actually there were two quite high volume candles, but we didn't get as high yet as, for example, in March 2020. And if we go to the monthly chart, we, however, see that the monthly candles are not yet super impressive, and that we would like actually to go into that area, because many times the monthly candles, friends, went into this range here. So in order to really be sure that we are getting a strong reversal, we would need to be sure to see some really nice volume, and the monthly volume bars are still not impressive. Like, they are good, but we are not at this level here where I think we would need to go. So this speaks for me, for the theory right now, that we would get some kind of bounce from the lower Bollinger Band now, go quite high up, and then bam, go down a second time. And in this dump, in this second dump, we would get some massive volume on par with the volume that we have seen here in the last years when we had these big reversals. Now, there's something else I wanted to show you, because if we look at the total altcoin market cap, right, at the total market cap, it is interesting to see that we have not touched the lower Bollinger Band. We are actually above the lower Bollinger Band. So the total market cap of all altcoins, including Bitcoin, looks a bit more bullish. And fascinatingly, if we go into the total too, so including the whole market cap excluding Bitcoin, but including Ethereum, we can see something very fascinating. We can see that actually here, the lower monthly Bollinger Band was actually touched. This is very different from Bitcoin, because here in March 2020, we can actually see that the lower monthly Bollinger Band was touched not only a bit, but freaking perfectly. Let me just zoom in and show you how freaking perfectly it was touched. Like, look at this. How much I've zoomed in now. It touched the lower monthly Bollinger Band absolutely perfectly. This is crazy. Also quite interesting to see that here, actually in 2020, the Bollinger Band was extremely narrow for the altcoin market, extremely narrow. So as I explained before, every time when the Bollinger Band is really very narrow, the probability for a breakout gets extremely high. And the probability for a breakout to the upside, of course, was a lot higher than the probability for a break to the downside, because of the Bitcoin halving in 2020 and because Bitcoin started pumping like crazy. So of course the altcoins followed, but it's just fascinating to see that this happened when the monthly Bollinger Band was really narrow, and that we exactly perfectly touched the lower monthly Bollinger Band. And as we can see here, also quite fascinatingly, we are still quite far away from the lower monthly Bollinger Band, which is now resting at a market cap of 191 billion, and we are at 483 billion, including Ethereum. Now, if we go to the total three, the market cap of all altcoins excluding Ethereum, we see it's quite similar. We see that here also the altcoins have hit the lower monthly Bollinger Band quite nicely, not as perfectly as total 2, but still very nicely. But we can see also that here the monthly Bollinger Band was getting extremely narrow again, right? Extremely narrow, and therefore the probability for a breakout was getting extremely high. Now, as we can see, the monthly Bollinger Band is not super narrow yet. The upper and lower Bollinger Bands are still quite far away from each other, reminding us of a situation similar to here. Right? It was also back then quite far away here in October 2019. And what did that mean? Well, that meant that we could in theory get some kind of bounce, but the probability is very high that we are getting some kind of oscillatory movement, because here that was some kind of bizarre oscillatory movement, and all the while the Bollinger Band was getting narrower and narrower. Okay, look at this. So I think something similar could be happening now as here, while the Bollinger Band was getting narrower all the time here in early 2020, and we had some oscillatory wild movement. Something similar could happen in the altcoin market. Now, of course, in the last videos I was speculating about the possibility that this here could be an expanded flat scenario, right? That this here could be an expanded flat, and that we could in theory pump from here directly to new all-time highs. So could this be possible, including the monthly Bollinger Band? Now, if we activate the Bollinger Band and go into the monthly, we see that it is difficult. It is not impossible, but the monthly Bollinger Band is now at $1.07 trillion market cap. And normally what would happen if we now go high upwards, it would be more difficult to get through the monthly Bollinger Band from such a scenario here, because the monthly Bollinger Band is not yet super narrow. Normally such breakouts occur when the monthly Bollinger Band is really narrow. So if the Bollinger Band would be super narrow now and we would start breaking up, then of course this would be much easier, because then what happens, as you know, the monthly Bollinger Band then widens up again. It widens up, okay? But if the monthly Bollinger Band is super wide already, and already now we start going up, then the monthly Bollinger Band represents a very, very strong resistance point. And then it is very unlikely that we just go from here and make very strong all-time highs. So it is possible that we could make an all-time high with the altcoin market cap, but it is unlikely that it will be a lot higher than those 2 points here. So the all-time high here was in November 2021 at 1.14 trillion market cap. So I could imagine that we could go to 1.3, 1.4 and break slightly above the upper Bollinger Band. But I don't see a scenario where now we just go directly from here to, I don't know, say 2 or 3 trillion, okay? Like this, because that wouldn't be in line with the behavior of the monthly Bollinger Band. So what the monthly Bollinger Band says for the altcoin market cap is that it's quite likely that if we get some bounce, that we will get some massive resistance here at the all-time high of the total market cap of all altcoins. So at around 1.1, 1.2, 1.3 trillion dollars. It's not to say that it's impossible, but it's just to say that it's unlikely that we go directly here to these very high market caps of 3, 4, 5 trillion dollars. Okay, I think that if we start pumping now and the altcoin market behaves really nicely and starts pumping, we will get some very strong resistance here from the upper monthly Bollinger Band and get some form of rejection, so that the Bollinger Band can become narrower again, okay? So that the Bollinger Band can do something like this and start getting narrower, and then we get a bit of oscillation until we go into the next big run up, and then we can indeed go, as happened here, from low market caps to really high market caps and keep pumping and go to 4, 5, 6, I don't know how many trillion dollars of altcoin market cap. This can happen, but going here directly from where we are now is, as you can see, just taking into account the monthly Bollinger Bands, really unlikely, because this would violate the behavior of the monthly Bollinger Band. So I think it is more likely that if we get some form of bounce now, that we see some rejection, we could make a slight new all-time high, but probably we would get some rejection and then wait until the monthly Bollinger Band is getting really narrow again, and then bam, we make the new all-time highs and the Bollinger Band is widening again. So that's why I wanted to show you the monthly Bollinger Band can be a really excellent tool to give us ideas about the long-term behavior of Bitcoin and of the altcoin market cap. If you found this video interesting or helpful, I would be happy if you would like this video and maybe even subscribe to this funny channel here, because I'm doing daily updates here on this crazy market, despite the market performing like crap and despite almost nobody watching my videos because the YouTube algorithm is a complete asshole and not promoting my videos. But with your help, maybe this could change, friends, but I need your help for that. So please like and subscribe. That would help me really a lot. Thanks friends for watching, and I wish you a nice day and see you in the next crypto video tomorrow. Ciao!